donate your picture.
Okay. Cole, did you do that with a pencil? And crayon. Okay, and what did you call it?
It's feeding time.
What is it? Feeding time.
Do you like eagles? I think it's terrific.
Tonight, we're presenting 4 options for Vasquez High School. What I'd like to do is go through all 4 options and then take questions or comments, if I may. Starting with option 1, I'll show the site plans first and then we'll get into the numbers. Option 1 is the same as what we went out to bid with, basically building A, C, we have a relocatable kitchen, building E, buildings F and G. And the site work, obviously, we have to do the catch basin and the septic tank and the roadway that comes through. What we propose for this option is to go multi-prime, which is the subcontractors having a direct contract with the district for the site work, and for the buildings, prefabricated structures. So what the district would have to do is basically hire a CM, construction manager, to run the multi-prime site work and the building portion at the same time. Next. Option 2 is very similar to option 1, the only difference being that this is very similar to what was approved last year under option E, where you have the building E as an Edward deleted and you have bungalows. The reason for that is to try and bring the cost down. And we'll see the numbers as we move forward. Option 3. Option 3 is just the gymnasium, building the gym, building the fire road, doing all the grading. No infrastructure for the other buildings, eliminating that, but keeping the catch basin and the septic tank, because that's part of the agreement with the county that any kind of development here has to have the catch basin and the septic tank. Next. And option 4 is the same as option 1, except for this kitchen relocatable becomes a permanent prefabricated structure. Everything else is the same. And the delivery method for this is a lease-back for the site work and for the buildings. Next.
Let's elaborate a little bit on option 4. If you take a look at each of the buildings, that includes
Building A, C, you have a prefabricated kitchen, which is a permanent kitchen, which can be converted into 2 classrooms once the state matches funds and you can build a gymnasium here. So this would be a permanent structure, double wide classroom to serve as a kitchen, warming kitchen, and a multi-purpose, which can be converted into 2 classrooms down the road.
You remember also on the previous slides that had a mobile facility there, which would have been like a, if you will, a trailer facility for a cafeteria, which have been the same size, but again, there was lease obligations associated with that, as we discussed it in the previous options. This particular option eliminates that and aligns that particular facility with all of the other structures in the prefabricated model. So the model becomes synonymous. Each building will be the same. The advantage to this is, number one, obviously the lease structures go away. There are no lease structures. And in the event that whenever we can get our matching funds and build the gymnasium where that current parking lot is, Gary, if you put it right there, that's where the gym will ultimately go. We do have a pad for that and ready to go. Then K remains, because if you remember, the cafeteria is in a MPR type environment, and so that K building will no longer be needed. We can take out the equipment, put in a wall in between, and that becomes 2 additional classrooms, or we can leave it open as 1 large classroom. So we have a lot of variability built in, and it's a permanent prefabricated structure. I think that's a significant option change in this particular one. And this also if you will, keep in mind, does include all classroom space. Gary, I can't see that number at the very bottom, but it does hold in excess in terms of capacity of number of students that we can currently house in this model. And I think it also has some flexibility built in. So
Well,
that includes, can you tell me what that
The
number
current
is?
enrollment is 429 students. This allows for another it allows for 15 classrooms at 32 student load factor, that's 480, and one SDC classroom at 9 student load, so that's 489 students. So that's
That
a
does
60
assume,
student growth
an
potential.
SDC space, which is a more severe population special education space
That's
in
in
that
building
particular
C.
building C. It does assume, again, everything is as designed previously, from science labs in building F to arts labs in building G, which includes music, fine arts, performing arts, as well as a culinary arts in building G. So the culinary arts exists in building G, just as was in option E. And I apologize for all the letters and numbers and all that, but hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Everything you said applies to both option 1 and 4, correct?
That's correct, except for the class, this kitchen.
Except for
The
K.
kitchen.
Except for the kitchen
Yes.
being,
That's correct.
Under 1,
Except
it's a
for-
relocatable, and under option 4 is a permanent pre-manufactured structure which can be converted into 2 classrooms.
but the way you're talking, you're saying probably you're liking option 4 much better than option 1.
And well, the delivery method is different as well in this, is in that it's a prefabricated, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But the prefabricated structures are what we'll talk about in depth and detail more in a little bit. In terms of also, if you will, the delivery method is important on this particular one. And I don't know if Gary, when you're going to plan on getting into that, but we need to talk about, yeah, go ahead.
Well, before we get into the delivery mechanism, which I do want to understand, because I don't understand what a lease-leaseback is. Maybe just quickly, I'm just trying to catch up and look at the numbers. It seems like option 4 has a permanent structure instead of the temporary structure for the kitchen, right?
Yes.
And I would have expected that would actually be more expensive, but option 4 is less expensive.
That's my question.
So how does that work? Where am I
Well,
missing?
option 1 has a multi-prime approach versus this, which is a lease-back approach.